Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where lockdown continues here in the UK, but the show must go on. And thankfully, technology allows me to share insights from some of the biggest names in tech all over the world every single day. And today, I want to tackle the topic of encryption. Now, as enterprise organizations struggle to understand the benefits of this technology, coupled with myths that encryption technology is cumbersome and expensive, it often feels like it's almost become the afterthought of the data security world. Well, today, Zettaset CEO Tim Reilly joins me on the podcast to speak about the benefits of encryption in today's digital-first enterprise environment. And Zettaset's advanced software-based data encryption solutions are designed to protect petabyte-scale hybrid cloud and hyper-converged infrastructure deployments. So for those reasons alone, I think we're in for a treat today. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to California so we can speak with Zettaset's CEO, Tim Reilly. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Tim. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Thanks, Neil. Happy to be here. I work at Zettaset. I'm the CEO of an encryption company. We're based out in the Bay Area, and we do software-defined encryption, and we mainly focus on the enterprise, medium to large, globally. And we feel right now in the world there is a pressing need for encryption to be more pervasive than it is right now. And I think the abilities of software only, meaning you don't need a appliance, really do help and give the opportunity for us to propagate encryption throughout the world. And there is so much sensitive data out there right now. We really like the opportunity for Zettaset.
And there's so many reasons I'm excited to get you on the podcast today to tackle the topic of encryption. And I read before you came on the podcast that you described encryption as the red-headed stepchild of the security world. Can you expand on what you meant by that?
Yeah, it's always an afterthought. I would love to see it put into play when everyone plans out a security strategy and the infrastructure you want to roll out for any size company. But it's always something that seems to happen after the fact when it comes to, hey, let's put in audit, access controls, everything like that. Then lo and behold, what happens? There's a breach and there's theft. And people go, oh God, I forgot that third leg of the stool, encrypting the data. And whether it's in healthcare, where if there is a breach, you have to report it. And the Office of Civil Rights, that's under Health and Human Services, they put you up on what I call the wall of shame. And you're up there, it tells you how many records and what level of breach you had, and then you get the fine. So you have this drag through the mud reputation issue. And then all of a sudden, hey, we need to get encryption in place. Why do you have to be, tarred and feathered to figure out that you need to put this in place? So I would love for the world to know it's not an afterthought. It's something that you should do in conjunction. And I'll say this, but if you don't do it, we've also got a great product to help install it without being a large impact to your performance and your business operations. So we really view that as a helpful opportunity for us to make sure if you didn't put it in at first, we'll bring that redheaded stepchild out of the closet and dress them up, make them feel at home, and voila, you'll have encryption in your enterprise.
And there is so much confusion around the world of encryption, and many techies listening will be quickly get angered when governments that don't help that situation, when they say on the nightly news that, hey, we'll just create a backdoor to that encryption, which obviously you just cannot do. But I've got to ask, where do you begin to educate organizations that are struggling to understand the benefits of encryption?
Yeah, a great question. I think you see this fear. In my mind, there is always security versus privacy. Yeah. We know that is the eternal balance, especially in the current environment we live in. But we tend to view that there's so much sensitive data out there. And with regards to phones, I'll put this, that's more end user. That's the laptops. That's, the desktops. We're guarding the data center. All that data that's brought back and is encrypted. I look at it as like a castle. Yeah. There's the moat, there's the walls, there's the guard towers, there's the searchlights. Well, you get inside, there's more locks than there's more locks than you want. But at the end, what if somebody gets into the treasure? They might. And in that case, encryption is your last line of defense. That's how we view it. And you're able to protect sensitive data, which we all know is the holy grail of any bad actor, whether that's crime or a rogue state, or hopefully we don't get to a point where you have to worry every day that somebody's trying to grab your data. But we're not there. Where we are is, I believe we've got too many people trying to knock on the door, and we don't have enough defense. And encryption is a great defense that gives you what I would consider at least some level of comfort that you can't get from access controls, that you can't get from audit and logging, because these guys get so much more savvy. Neil, everybody's finding a way to get in, but at the end of the day, protect your data. And to do that, you talk to any practice out there, any security expert, conventional wisdom will tell you, you got to encrypt it.
And one of the things I do enjoy doing on this Daily Tech podcast is busting a few myths and righting a few wrongs out there. And I suspect that someone that's working right in the heart of the world of encryption, there's got to be a few little niggles that you might want to get off your chest. So is there any myths around encryption technology that you would like to finally lay to rest today?
The back door, it's not there.
Yeah.
That's a fight that is a political one, but it's not there right now. And I want people to rest at ease. You get into a big argument about it, Neil, that, it's there, it's not there. For the purpose of the full disk encryption that we're providing, there is no backdoor. So breathe easy. Second piece, hearing the word encryption or cryptography, don't let your eyes roll in the back of your head. We've simplified it, and it is simple enough that you can put it in place and not have to read a War and Peace thick book on how to do it. Third, it's going to impact performance because you're doing calculations, right? Encrypt, decrypt. Well, if you can minimize that performance hit, then all of a sudden you've got something interesting. So know that it's going to impact performance, but know that if you have the ability and the technology to do it right, you're not going to even notice that performance hit because it's going to be nominal. For us, we do 2 to 7% hit, which you're not even going to see. And the last one I'd say is, yes, I mean, everybody has this view of like the Matrix or Sneakers, that movie. If you make things transparent enough, they never even see it. Okay. So you get back to the crypto and people get, oh my God, look at this. This is hard to deal with. And you make it transparent. You take the performance issues off. No, there's no backdoor for this. And know that it's simple enough. You don't have to be a cryptographic expert. And I think if you get all those things out of the way, it's a lot easier to accept encryption as your friend and not as your enemy.
And you did mention a few moments ago that encryption has become almost an afterthought of the data security world. So why do you think that is?
I think there's definitely these concerns of business interruption. If you have the ability to do it up front, like I was saying before, that's an easy one. Even then, you probably have to say, all right, what are the top hurdles for me to get over? And the biggest one, like I said, was performance. And if you're in an existing operation and all of a sudden, like for instance, like I said about DevOps, if that whole constant innovation, constant development, suddenly those guys they're running fast, they're giving more time to value for the customer. And then you get a security guy that comes in and says, hey, hang on a sec, we got to put this in. And it's like, oh God, I thought we were going to get out of this. I didn't think that these guys were going to knock on my door. So yes, that's the biggest inhibitor, is definitely performance. Get that off of the table, and I think you really can see further adoption. And again, the redheaded stepchild can come out, and you can have a really good last line of defense.
And for any business leaders or decision makers listening, what would you say are the biggest benefits of encryption in today's digital first enterprise environment where more and more people are working from home at scale?
I think it's peace of mind.
Yeah.
I think sensitive data is almost, I think it's going to be 175 zettabytes in 2025. So 5 years from now. And we're under 20. And I think we were at 13 not too long ago, a few years back. So you can see the scale. 90% of the data has been created in the last 2 years. So if my assets, whether that's the big guys, whether that's an Apple or Google or whomever, they have so much data. And especially now, there's the new California Consumer Privacy Act that just came into effect Jan 1. In that, again, you got to encrypt with all this sensitive data. And if someone walks off with it, as long as they don't have the encryption key, they're not going to break it. So they can't get in. And again, that's your peace of mind. And I firmly believe that protection of the most valuable asset any company has now is number one, without a doubt. I mean, you could get into all the ones as long as it doesn't impact operations in a way that impacts reputation, anything along the lines of fines. There's a financial piece of it. But going all the way back, it's just about peace of mind and guarding your sensitive data. It's becoming too pervasive that it's the, back in the day, it was what? It was gold, rob the stagecoach. Now it's grab the data. And without encryption, I really do feel that you don't have a guard in anything of a level that meets it. You really don't. I think encryption is the best way to do things when it comes to defense of your sensitive data. And I'm beating it a lot because I do believe people don't understand how tempting it is. I mean, look at North Korea. I mean, geez, they even hacked Sony back in the day. If you remember the movie that they did that with, I believe Marriott just got hit again today. So it's constant. Even the guys that got it done once, they still haven't learned. Yeah. Encryption gives you peace of mind. Again, back to start, protect that sensitive data.
And I'm conscious we will have people listening that are hearing about Zettaset for the very first time. So for those people listening that could be anywhere in the world right now, can you just explain what is Zettaset and how are you helping solve many of these problems that we're talking about today for your customers?
Yeah, no, that's a good one. So we're a software-based company in the Bay Area. We do have global scale. It just depends on where you are in your life cycle of data generation. If you even have 2 terabytes, we've got you covered. If you're, zettabytes, think about the name, we've got you covered there as well. So when you have encryption that scales as a software product, it doesn't matter where the data is, we have you protected. And let me give you the bigger view of the digital transformation, which is the hot word everyone says. Think of it this way. It's on the left side of the page is the legacy systems with all that data. And then in the middle, we have the sausage factory that turns in and gets some value. And then on the right side, you have the likes of the DevOps, where there's constant innovation. You have the IoT, where they're collecting this new data and doing analytics on the edge. Well, all of that on the right side, there are so many new attack vectors out there. You don't know actually where they all are. Back to the bad actors, and where is your sensitive data? How do you give yourself peace of mind that sensitive data is protected? Well, when you do, with Zettaset, with our encryption, you do get that peace of mind. And that's why I like to tell people, listen, regardless of whether it's bare metal, VMs, containers, it's in the cloud, multi-cloud, or out on the edge, wherever the data goes, we follow it and encrypt it and protect it. I like to say we're pervasive and we're on demand.
And I appreciate you probably can't talk about too many partners or name any names here, but do you have any use cases that will just help listeners understand the difference that you're making to clients out there?
Yeah, I'll give you 2. One is in healthcare. We have one client that's in the Midwest, and they needed an immediate deadline hit for HIPAA. We came in, and they had roughly, I believe, 800 nodes that needed immediate encryption. We were able to come in with software only and encrypt data in place. You don't have to back up and restore, which in and of itself is a huge value. We also offer a virtual key manager and a virtual HSM. So just to be clear about that, the key manager obviously manages the cipher key. So if you have a key, you make it takes plain text to ciphertext, and you don't want to keep that encryption key right next to the encrypted data. It's kind of like putting the key under your mat. So you got to move the key off, and make sure your listeners understand that piece. It's great to encrypt. Like I've said, peace of mind of sensitive data, but there's only one way to decrypt it. It's with that key. So that key is the most valuable thing, and it needs to be separate from where the data is encrypted. So we have a virtual key manager, and again, it's real simple to use. There was one survey that said 50% of folks are using Excel spreadsheets to track their keys. It was unheard of to me. I can't believe that. So here we are, this one healthcare provider. We come in, we install, I want to say within a couple of days, we had all those nodes. And there was another geographic location, so we were able to do it remotely as well. Haven't really heard anything from them. It's been that great. We ping them, say, hey, everything going good? Sure, it's great. They're HIPAA compliant. They don't have to worry about violations. Customers and the patients sleep easy. There's your value in a nutshell, and you get to check all the boxes you need for compliance. So peace of mind again, sensitive data protected. Another one with the California Consumer Privacy Act. There is a wealth of data that's being analyzed, and everyone's trying to figure out how this is going to affect them. And the one customer I can think of, they're really big on containers. They're really big into Kubernetes and dealing with fast-moving innovation. And they immediately realized with all this data, there is an issue. And we came in, and this is one of those, Neil, where I really do see the future with this DevOps to DevSecOps, which is our mantra. I've talked a lot about healthcare and that vertical and helping, but the new space that everyone's migrating to is DevOps. Well, DevOps is a great start, but in the example, containers, they tap into data anywhere. And then Kubernetes manages thousands of containers. So you can imagine, do you know where they're touching, where the data is, where the sensitive data is? That is a massive galactic soup. You just don't know. But we're able to take our encryption and identify whatever sensitive data, we give it an encryption key, and only the people who need to get to it get to it. So you can see all of a sudden with a tech company going, wow, at least I know that whatever developer, whomever, they're only touching the data that they have an encryption key for. And versus someone else, maybe in a multi-tenant situation in the same server, they can't see that. So there's the value again and the peace of mind that comes with it.
And there is so much talk at the moment around the global pandemic, and we're both locked down on different sides of the pond right now. It almost feels like even the biggest technophobe has almost been forced to overcome those tech hurdles and embrace things like video conferencing and working from home. I'm curious, do you think in a post-pandemic world, the way of working is going to be completely different to what it was a few months ago?
Yeah, I worry for the real estate market. Yeah. I do believe there'll be some level of folks that don't come back. Yeah. I know that in certain banks, I won't tell you who, I have a friend who says that they may not open up all the branches again because they've seen the benefit of the work from home and have more flexible and the need to have all those people there. So in that sense, I do believe you're never going to see it go away. Yeah. And I do believe with encryption at the endpoint or creating a VPN that has the ability to encrypt, so when you're on the company network, you're safe. Again, you know what you might have just hit on is people have to come to accept encryption if they're going to work from home. Yeah. Because that gives the company, the IT, the security, the execs, and for that matter, the board, comfort that with all of their employees distributed, all these resources, like you've said, globally across the pond, that no matter what, when they're accessing the core, the central databases, if everything's encrypted, there is, again, a peace of mind that you have some level of protection. Look, nothing's perfect. There is never 100% coverage, but encryption will give you, as long as you're smart with the keys, 99% coverage. It's something that if everyone's remote, I shouldn't say everyone, there'll always be people going in, but you're going to have to live with encryption. And I think if you were working at X company and you were at home and you were accessing sensitive data, boy, I'd sure like to know that it's encrypted, because I don't want to be the reason it gets exposed, breach, and theft. So it's a new world with remote, and the new world needs better security. And I think encryption is what's needed. And we see it with Zoom right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's great, Neil, that the topic of encryption has been so prevalent, whether it's with the iPhones, with now Zoom. I just don't want it to be the bad guy. I want it to be the people don't understand it's the good guy. It's the one helping you. I wonder some days if it's going to go, which way it's going to go, because it's the privacy versus security aspect of any fight. How much should, we'll just talk about it for a second, the government have access to your data versus, the rights to freedom and the right to protect it at any cost. And there's always going to be that. I think it's going to be perennial. It's forever. You're always going to have people on both sides of that argument. But with the current distributed nature of everybody because of the pandemic and the remote, I think we all have to embrace the fact that it's our best friend and it's going to keep us safe. And I'll let the politicians talk about the other side of it, but it's your friend and it's going to protect your sensitive data. So embrace it.
100% with you there. And to end on a positive note, what is next for Zettaset, and what is it that excites you about the future of encryption and emerging technologies?
I think the greater good for us is the value that we're all going to get out of sensitive data and this 175 zettabytes in 5 years. You have to be able to follow that data and let the value come from it. And to do that, you have to protect. And I want everyone to understand, regardless of where it is, regardless of all these new technologies that we all embrace and get excited about, the underpinnings of it all is the data that people make, and just by us, or that wherever it may come from, we'll have you covered. And the next big thing for us is taking the DevOps to DevSecOps and telling everyone the SEC in that is a good thing. Don't think it as an inhibitor or a hurdle. It's a great thing. And if you can give the world visibility of every piece of data that's being encrypted or not encrypted, that's the future. And Zettaset's well on its way to giving you that single pane of glass that will give you not only, hey, trust me, it's encrypted, give you the view that, see, it is encrypted. And you bring those two together, and hopefully we hear the word encryption in a good way for the foreseeable future.
And for anyone listening that would like to carry on the conversation we started today, or just find out more information about Zettaset, could you just point them in the direction?
Yeah, Zettaset.com, Zettaset.com. Love to talk further about it anytime you want.
Well, there's so much I've loved talking to you about today, but I love the analogy you used there a few moments ago about it wasn't too long ago that people were stopping the stagecoach to steal the gold. But of course, now in a digital world, those attack vectors are actually stealing sensitive data, and it's encryption that's actually the good guy. And I think it's a beautiful moment to end on. So more than anything, though, just a big thank you for joining me today, Tim. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Neil. It's been wonderful.
So a big thank you to Tim for not only sharing his insights and the great work that he's doing with Zettaset right now, but also for taking the time to spend a bit of time to bust a few myths around encryption. But I am curious, if this is your area of expertise and you have anything additional to add to the conversation, or if you think that we've missed anything, remember, this is your podcast too. I genuinely mean that. I offer an open invitation to everyone, so please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. My website is techblogwriter.co.uk. Send me a message, because I want you to be a part of these conversations too. And remember, feel free to send me pictures of where you're self-isolating at the moment. I'd love to see the world through your eyes, because let's face it, I can't travel anywhere myself at the moment. So keep those photos coming in as well. But that's it for today's episode, so a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.